Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Monday evening to you all. I hope you guys are doing awesome out there tonight and had yourselves a wonderful day. And I hope everyone's had an outstanding start to the work week out there so far. I appreciate y'all joining me tonight as we discuss the tropics. That's going to be our only topic of discussion as we now have Invest 93L, which basically means it's an area that's being investigated for tropical development. So the first thing we'll go over is what this thing is doing right now, and it's off the east coast of Florida. So we'll dive into that, speak on that a little bit, and just speak on how healthy or maybe not so healthy it is. We'll take a look at radar, then we'll dive into model guidance. We will speak on what the National Hurricane Center is saying as far as the chances of development. But I will say there'll be many updates between the time I drop this video and then the time I do another video tomorrow morning. So just know I'm making this video as of around 10 after 6 Eastern time, so I just wanted to reiterate that. But like I said, we'll go over model guidance, we'll compare it. I'll give you my take on things as we roll through the video. We'll talk on, we'll kind of nerd out with you guys and speak on the environmental conditions that could support the strengthening of a tropical system in the Gulf over the next few days. We'll speak on steering currents, and then we'll talk a little bit about impacts at the very end of the video. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below so I can pray over it. And it gives many others an opportunity to pray over it also. So let's get rocking and rolling for tonight. I almost said this morning. I have not made a lot of evening videos lately. I'm used to saying this morning. So hopefully I don't say that anytime during the video. It's tonight now. It's this evening. But this is what this thing's looking like right now. Like I said, this is Florida. This is southeast Georgia. We have big thunderstorms. You can see all this white that blows up here. This is tall cumulus clouds and just a lot of very deep convection, tall updrafts spiking way up in the atmosphere. And this is popping off what we call outflow boundaries, rain-cooled air. And this helps to spike or spark more convection, but it also cools down the atmosphere. I'm going to speak on that here in a second, but this is our main system. If you look at it, I mean, it quite literally has a bit of a spin to it. I'm going to draw on this a little bit to make sure this is going to work, and it is. So you can see a little bit of lower level spin kind of going into it like that, but this is kind of going way up here, and of course, the mid-level convection, I mean, it's kind of everywhere. All this white area that I just drew the squiggly line on, that's your mid-level convection, your thunderstorm activity. That's not exactly, and it's not going to be in the early stages of a developing tropical system, centered on top of the actual lower-level circulation, which we're not quite sure if there's an actual defined low-level circulation with this. I would argue that it does not have one yet, but recon missions will go into this and just figure out what's exactly under the hood. But to wrap all that up, I will say that this looks like the beginning stages of a tropical system. It's struggling. Any system that's kind of trying to get its act together, the beginning life stages of a tropical system is obviously struggling in the beginning. There's going to be spikes in healthy times, and there's going to be times where it's not as healthy. Right now, it's not as healthy as it was, say, a few hours ago, and that is because you see all this thunderstorm activity here. This is popping off a lot of rain-cooled boundaries. So these boundaries are actually, going off the east coast of Florida and impacting the convection being generated off this invest. And this actually sort of cancels out the convection because that rain-cooled air, hits all the thunderstorm activity and acts as like a negative factor for this convection. So what I'm saying is a lot of this shower and storm activity is actually waning right now as the night begins to fall on this system. So if you actually look very closely, you can see how some of these whites begin to dull out and you're not seeing exploding updrafts in here as much anymore. But that could change, especially as we get into what we call Dmax, diurnal maximum, when the difference between the sea surface temperatures and the actual air is the most. We'll speak on that when we need to. So another way to look at this is just basically it shows more colors, right? So if you look right here, you can see the reds and the burgundy colors and even some yellows and greens. But once you start to get into these reds and these burgundy colors, these are colder cloud tops. So the stronger the storms, the stronger, the taller the updrafts, and the taller they are, the colder it gets up in the atmosphere. So the more these updrafts soar up higher up in the atmosphere, the colder it is. So this is being indicated by the colors here. So you see these big thunderstorms blowing up over Florida, southeast Georgia. But if you notice, you had big thunderstorms blowing up over this area, which is kind of the invest, right? and then it sort of wanes a little bit. So this happens a lot with really any tropical system, even a hurricane. A lot of times we have a little bit of a weakening with a tropical system, even some of our most powerful hurricanes, when you have what we call diurnal minimum, which is right now, sort of when the sun is setting. So we'll speak more on D-min and D-max a little bit more when there's a better example of it. But this is our system right here. I know I got really deep into that, but I'm just a nerd when it comes to the weather, guys. Another way to look at this, the third way to look at this, is the actual radar. I mean, you can see there is a bit of a spin, sort of a half a spin, if you will. It's kind of going like this, but there's not a lot of convection on the northern edge of this because there's a lot of shear being kind of whiplashing this system with a little upper level feature to the north. So your deepest convection, your deepest moisture is really on the western side and the southern side. But I mean, this thing has a lot of moisture, a lot of rain falling over portions of Florida right now, but you can see a little bit of a spin even on the radar. So it's very interesting. Now, I'm going to reiterate this a bunch, and let's see if we got any update information. We do not. So this update was at 1:10 p.m. Eastern time. There's going to be another update in about an hour, maybe less. So right now there's a 30% chance of tropical development in this yellow area. This X right here, this is where the invest is right now, invest 93L. And by the way, our next named storm is Dexter. So just want to, if you don't know, now you know. Dexter, easy enough to say, right? Sometimes these names can be tricky to say, kind of weird, pronounced odd. But anyways, one thing that changed with the afternoon update is they extended the chances, that area that has a shot of development, back over or off the coast, off the east coast of Florida. So now there's a little area right here. If you remember, been tuning in, it was just over this area. Okay, now it's kind of brought all the way to the actual X. So what I'm saying is I think there's a chance that this could become a tropical depression sometime overnight. Maybe we wake up to a tropical depression, or a PTC, which stands for potential tropical cyclone, sometime over the next 12 hours. Maybe by the time I join you guys tomorrow morning, we could have a tropical depression. I wouldn't rule it out. I wouldn't even rule out a tropical storm. But if that happens, that's definitely a sign that this is overachieving. Now, so I just want to say that at the 8 p.m. update, or 7 whatever p.m. update, this might get bumped up to a 40% chance of development within the next 7 days. So that would show up in orange, which would make it a medium shot at development. So if it does, trust me, I know I'm a weather geek. I stay on top of it, but I just wanted to reiterate that. Now, what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm actually going to do this a little bit different compared to the last few videos I've made. I'm going to start off with the most aggressive model because I think a more aggressive scenario is going to play out. Now, am I about to say a hurricane is going to hit the Gulf coastline? No. Am I going to rule it out? Absolutely not. So this is Tuesday morning, tomorrow morning. It's showing a low pressure trying to interact with land, maybe make landfall. And this is the area of your screen I want you to focus in on. Right down here. The icon shows it the most. If this ends up becoming a tropical storm in the Gulf, we have to tip our hat to the icon because it showed it first. Okay, but we start to get into, say, tomorrow evening. Looks like this begins to cross over Florida. By the time we get into late tomorrow night, this is fully over the Gulf. By the time we're waking up Wednesday morning, we have a legit tropical system hanging out in the northeast Gulf. Now, watch as this number begins to drop as we make our way into Wednesday evening. So now it's 1,003 millibar low. One would argue that this is Tropical Storm Dexter at this point. And then this, by the time we get into Thursday morning, July the 17th, we have a 999 millibar low, sub 1,000. So this is a strengthening tropical storm, maybe even getting close to a Category 1 hurricane as we are getting into Thursday evening, and eventually makes landfall in southeast Louisiana. Almost all model guidance likes southeast Louisiana. And it makes landfall as around a 989 millibar low. Now, is that Mitch saying that that's exactly what's going to happen? No, it's not. But would I say that this is a possibility? Oh, absolutely. Okay, you got to remember that model guidance, global models handled Chantal horribly, guys. I mean, we had a 60 mile per hour tropical storm that was classified as that ultimately made landfall. No model guidance showed that. So if you told me that a hurricane was going to be in the northern Gulf over the next couple of days, I would say, okay, well, I believe you. So I think it's possible. I'm going to go over why here in a second. But Icon has continued to be the most aggressive. So we'll have to see if this actually plays out. Another way of looking at this is the 500 millibar Vort. This is energy in the mid to upper levels of the atmosphere, about 18,000 feet up in the air. And you can obviously see the wind barbs, I'm sorry, it goes this way, wind barbs rotating around this area of energy, and it goes right into Louisiana as a strengthening tropical system. Now the GFS continues, and the Euro continues to, in a way, fall flat on its face, especially if it completely misses this. It continues to show no development with this. And we started off Tuesday midday. I mean, I can't even see the difference between just regular summer thunderstorms up here, the blobs of green, and the stuff down here. It all kind of mashes together. So you honestly cannot even point to where there's a tropical system in the Gulf like you can with the icon. But there is something here. As we are getting into Wednesday evening, we hope that this is what plays out. This is the weaker scenario, but I don't buy it. I mean, you can't really even separate it. I can sit here and try to dissect this for you, but it's going to be tough because you can't really see what's going on. Now, the Vort, you can see a little bit more, and this is at 850 millibars. And you can see a little bit of low-level rotation, but I mean, it looks even weaker than it did a few runs back. It doesn't even really tighten this up. So I'm having a hard time spending a lot of time on these global models. And then the Euro, it's the same thing. You know, we get into, say, Wednesday morning, it does show it a lot better than the GFS. It shows a big blob of moisture. You know, the greens, the rains is the rain, and the blobs of yellow and the reds, that's tropical moisture, tropical energy. And, you know, we get this into, say, Wednesday night, and there's something here. I mean, it looks a lot more evident here than the GFS, right? You got some sort of tropical energy here getting thrown into the Gulf coastline. So you can see it a little bit better there, right? But, you know, the thing that sucks is we can't really, we don't have hurricane models up yet. And I'm not sure if we will this evening. I'm not sure if I made this video a little bit too early and I just missed it. But one thing that I think that the HUR model, people will shame showing short-range model guidance for the tropics, but I think that sometimes when you're just this close to if you got a potential tropical system this close to land, and it's developing really close to land, I think that it's an okay thing, an okay tool to use as far as model guidance, and it did well. I made a tweet about it earlier on social media, and I compared and contrast what it was showing now compared to what the model showed yesterday for that time period, and it did well. So if we wake up tomorrow morning, it's showing some shower and storm activity across areas of Florida once again, but it's going to show, and I'm going to get this in motion, we get into tomorrow afternoon, it's going to show whatever this is crossing the peninsula of Florida. So tomorrow afternoon across Florida, we could get flash flooding. There's going to be a slight risk of excessive rainfall. A lot of rain is going to cross over the peninsula of Florida. This is basically the heart and soul of whatever this system is, going right over Orlando, Tampa, and eventually it's going to get on the west side. And here it is. This is like 1 o'clock in the morning tomorrow night. So it's going to get back over the open waters of the Gulf, and it's going to try to spin up. We can only go 48 hours out, so we'll take it to about midday Wednesday. And you see that little circulation right here? It has this tucked in pretty north in the Gulf. That is a developing tropical system. Now, it is the HUR model, but if you notice, it has a lot of moisture to the south. But, I mean, you still got a lot of moisture back over Florida. But you see that little area right here? And I'm going to kind of back it up a few hours. If I get this in motion, you can see there's something developing here heading right towards southeast Louisiana. So if you asked me and you said, you know, hey, Mitch, do you think that this has the possibility of becoming our next named storm or even a hurricane? I would say, and like I said, I've already said this many times, I would say, yes, it does. One of the main reasons is, and this is the easiest thing that I would say, I would argue to understand when I explain this to the public, is most of us know that warmer sea surface temperatures supports tropical development. So right now, this is pretty cut and dry. The northern Gulf right now, and this is in Celsius, you see that's 30, 31, 29. So if you can convert 29, 30, 31 degrees Celsius to Fahrenheit, that's about the mid to upper 80s in Fahrenheit. So I might have said that wrong. 29, 30, 31 degrees Celsius to Fahrenheit. If you convert that to Fahrenheit, like I said, that is mid-upper 80s. Some buoys out here are probably at 90 degrees. The sea surface temperature is at 90 degrees. So basically, this tropical system is going to go let's use this. It's going to go probably across this area here. So that the waters right here are like bathtub. It's like a bathtub. So it's very warm. Check that off the box, okay? For a factor that supports tropical development, right? Another thing we can look at here is a little bit more difficult to explain to the audience, but one of my key things with this channel is explaining things to the audience in a way where you guys understand. I don't like just to jump on here, show you a bunch of flashy model runs, and then head on out and not provide any context behind it. So what you're looking at here is the 200 millibar flow, and I'm going to show the icon just because it's easier to pick out the low pressure because the Euro and the GFS show absolutely nothing. So say we do have around, 1,000, 1,005 millibar low chilling in the Gulf here. So like I said, this is 200 millibar flow. This is winds at 35, 40,000 feet up in the air. Okay, this area in blue is more enhanced flow. Just think of it windier, more windier conditions. But I want you to focus in on these arrows with these lines with the arrows embedded into them. I know it might be a little difficult to see on your screen, especially if you're looking at a phone. But you notice how these arrows are kind of going like this. They kind of go like that. And they kind of spread out like this. And they kind of go like this here. Now, they kind of come up against the storm in the opposite direction right into here. But once you get right into here, they spread out again. There's going to be an upper ridging kind of on top or just north of this system. This will actually, help aid in what we call some outflow. So basically the upper wind pattern supports divergence aloft. So this means that in the low to middle levels of this system, you got the convection, you got the low level circulation, but on top of the system, like 35, 40,000 feet up in the air is actually being dispersed away from the center of the system. This allows for more air to rapidly rise, and then that gets dispersed away. So if you got an environment that supports air being pushed out away from these tropical systems, this allows for just a continuation of ventilation system for rising air. We know that rising air allows for the firing and sustaining of convection, shower and storm activity. What does shower and storm activity do to an air mass? It moistens it up. So, and we know a tropical system does not like dry air, it likes moist air, right? So it's basically like a ventilation system for the system. You would think air being pushed away from the actual flow of the system would, disturb the flow, but this is way on top of the system. So what I'm saying is the upper wind pattern supports tropical development. Now, will this deal with some wind shear? Absolutely. Any tropical system does, and I think it would probably come and affect probably the eastern side of the system. But we'll see. This might allow for some dry air in. We got to figure that one out. But this favorable pattern kind of remains with the system, I would say, right after it comes off the west coast of Florida, maybe tomorrow night, and then over the next 48 hours after that. And this is why it allows for this system to really get going here. In fact, you almost got a little bit of what we call ULAC, an upper level anticyclone, which actually is when the winds are dispersing outward from the system, but actually going the opposite direction also, which just really just creates a really good environment for these tropical systems. So I hope that makes sense. The last thing we'll talk about is steering currents. A lot of people are wondering, I already read a comment in this morning's video said, it's so weird, it's so odd. I think people just love saying this kind of stuff because I think they just want to subscribe so much to the fact that the government is steering these tropical systems. If you believe that, hey, that's cool. Discuss it in the comments, whatever you want to do. But one thing I just challenge you guys to do, if you're a believer of the government controlling the weather, and if you believe little small scale versions of it, hey, that's cool. If you believe that every hurricane out there is produced by the government, that's cool too. But the one thing that I ask as the person creating the video is that you guys at least take the time to understand what I'm trying to explain to you guys. Don't just immediately assume stuff. Think for yourselves. Think for yourself. So I'm going to explain to you why this is kind of moving. Well, it is moving east to west. Okay, and why it's doing so. So this started off from a decayed frontal boundary and basically a stalled decaying frontal boundary. And this allowed for just convection to continuously fire over this area right here, over the open waters. Got a boost in the Gulf Stream probably, and is trying to develop as I speak right now. Now, what you're seeing on your screen here is the blue area, that's lower pressure. The flow around lower pressure goes like this in the northern hemisphere. Okay, that's important. And when we get a little bit deeper into hurricane season, when we're talking about upper level lows and how they influence the steering currents of a tropical system. Now, the flow around this ridge, which is showing up in the yellowish orange color, is going like this. Okay, so you're going to think that this is going to surge down here because it's going to follow the flow of the bottom edge of this ridge. But watch what happens to this area right here. Get this back off your screen here. The ridge sort of weakens. Okay, it kind of retreats, if you will, back this way. Okay, so now, I mean, you have a pretty cut and dry steering current. The flow's going like this, the bottom edge of this ridge, and then it kind of hooks up like this if you were to keep it going, right? So this means our low pressure is just going to kind of cruise this way, or maybe this way. Now, one thing to also note is a stronger low pressure always wants to fight to gain latitude. It always wants to fight to get us to turn north as quick as possible. There'll be better examples of that deeper in hurricane season. But this thing begins to strengthen. It feels a little bit of a weakness on top of the system, but there's still steady flow on top of this ridge, sort of not allowing for it to sort of shoot up like this or like that. Okay, the flow is kind of still going like this. So this is still pushing the system like this, but this thing's getting stronger. Okay, so it's trying to work up against that ridge. So it's going to try to turn against what's looking like to be pretty relatively weak ridging. So it's going to fight against that, but then ridging kind of builds on top of it and really slows it down. So that's a concern. As we say, as we get maybe deeper into the week, if this ridge builds on top of this, it could slow down any kind of moisture right on top of Louisiana. So hope that makes sense. I hope I explained that in a way where you guys can understand. But the flow at the bottom of the ridge is really what's pushing this that way. Okay, so moving forward, the last thing we'll talk about is how much rainfall is being predicted. Now, this is between now and the next week. Several inches of rain being predicted right now from the Weather Prediction Center. And of course, there's going to be areas where there's going to be more rain than what this is showing that's going to fall. We know that, but this is Florida, the Panhandle of Florida. This is Alabama and Mississippi. The majority of the rain is certainly down here in the southern sections. And then I do want to show you Louisiana. Now, this could increase. For my folks in Louisiana, please continue to tune in for more updates. But I really think that this will bump up to, say, 4 to 6 inches of rain. Regardless if this develops into a tropical storm or a hurricane or not, I think there is an opportunity or a chance that moisture could stall out and kind of hang out over this, over this area, the hiccups. So that's pretty much all I got, guys. I'm going to see if I can catch an update from the National Weather Service and National Hurricane Center, and I can't. And I'm also going to do this. I'm going to see if there's any new news on X, because on social media, sometimes you just get new information a lot faster. But no, nothing really to speak on that's new here. So just wanted to make sure I got as much information to you guys as possible. But yeah, guys, this is a developing situation. And right now it's kind of in a weakened stage. Let's take one last look at it here. Certainly at a weaker stage compared to what it was a couple hours ago. You can see convection. Those colors are dropping off, more of a muted kind of orange color. This tells us that the cloud tops are warming, which means the convection is weakening. And like I said, this is just due to the fact that we got a lot of sea breeze convergence here, outflows popping off, and this is impacting the convection. So it's not abnormal at all. What we watch for is if this thing can refire tomorrow morning, really. So that's all I got. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all. Have a wonderful night, and stay tuned for tomorrow morning's video, and we'll go over all the new information we have. God bless.